we are at the beginning of the cobot era, and we are going to see them all around us all the time and everywhere.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with C-Tech. Hello and welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. This episode is all about robotics. Meet Amnon Avi-Guy, a well-experienced manager in the fields of IT, organizational processes, and automation. Amnon is the General Manager of Robotize, the robotics division of Mittwoch. Amnon established Robotize 2 years ago, together with Amir Mittwoch, the company's business development manager. Now, after 2 extensive years, Amnon and Robotize are recognized in the Israeli market as market leaders in the cobotic field. You know, the world is obviously changing so rapidly, and the way that a lot of the tasks, a lot of the things that we need to interact with our physical world, they have we're constantly now thinking of what previously seemed like science fiction. Today is already becoming a reality, partially due to Robotize and different solutions that you bring to the world. And so I'm looking forward to talking about robotics with you, both on the creation perspective, but then also on the integration with humanity in the human-computer interaction, if you will. And so thank you very much for joining me today.
Great being here. And it is very interesting. And it is very interesting to share our thoughts and the way we think that the world will be and become with the cobots serving us. Yeah.
So already off the bat, you're mentioning the term cobots and not robots. So what is a cobot?
Okay. So actually the term, the word robot was invented I think it was 1921 when a Czech author looked for a word that will describe a machine that is doing a hard labor. And he took it from, it sounds like robota in Russian, but it is from the Czech language, which is a hard work. We think that the word robot exists since ever. No, it exists since 1921. And the actual robots that we started to use started, at the beginning of the 80s of the last century, when mainly Japanese manufacturers used robots in the production lines of cars. But those were mainly robotic arms that no human could be around it because, it could hit them. So we had robots like, machines that did hard work. But the term cobot reflects a machine which is collaborative with human beings. So this is why we call it cobot, collaborative robot, because it can interact and move and act around human beings.
So just to make sure that we because, in today's world, we still, if we're following TechCrunch or various newsletters, we'll get exposed to them. But in reality today, where will we find these cobots? If we're looking at the general humanity, where would I find today the implementation of production cobots?
Okay, so first of all, three main technologies had to be ready and developed in order that we will have cobots, working cobots. First one is energy. All cobots use batteries, and we need the batteries. Like in cars, that the batteries will have enough energy that will last for a long time and that will be charged rapidly. The second is computing. Each cobot has a lot of sensors that bring a lot of information, and that information should be processed near real time, and and to reflect on the cobot positioning or how it behaves. And the third is the navigation. All cobots, they move autonomously, and they need to navigate, in places that they didn't know until recently. So those are the three technologies: navigation, computing, and energy. And we can, when we deploy nowadays cobots, it is anywhere that you can imagine of. It starts from our homes, in hospitals, in factories, in hotels, in restaurants, nearly everywhere. And since the cobot can move autonomously from one point to the other, you can only imagine all the applications that we can install on those machines.
And so very interesting, but if we're looking now at the implementation and the integration of robots, there must be some fundamental premises or assumptions that these robots need to fulfill beyond their ability to conduct some task. What are some of the, safety, understanding wide expectations of such a robot? I mean, because at the end, this cobot is going to be implemented in a physical space, right? And so we must have some universal agreement as to what we're allowed and what we're not allowed to have the robot perform, on an algorithmic level. So are there any standards that are sort of universal in this manner?
Great question. No standards. Okay, until now, no standards, and I'm sure regulation is always behind the technology. So
just a few steps behind. Yes,
few big steps behind. Yeah. So there is no standards about how a cobot should behave or not. But the manufacturers and we as the integrators and who are responsible for the implementation of the solution, we must make sure that no cobot will harm a human being. So this is if we will have an incident in which a cobot caused an injury or death to a human being, I think that it will take a lot of time to convince others to implement cobotic solutions. Even though, moving machines that are being driven by human beings make a lot of accidents, but still, if a machine that drives alone will make an accident, then this is an issue. This is a big issue.
Right.
But for instance, sorry, yeah.
No, because I really am fascinated because as you're standing in the forefront, I want to make sure we're devoting enough time to a conversation also about where we're headed and what are the different opportunities. Because while there are companies that are dealing with this, I'm still struggling to really understand how much of an impact is this going to make on actually everything around us and the way that we live our life. And so maybe you can share with me just a little bit about Robotize and how you're thinking through the vision of robots integrated into our society.
Okay, so for the time being, we are dealing with 4 kinds of applications. The first one is cleaning robots, those who swap and vacuum the floor or sweep it or brush it, those kind of robots. The second application is delivery robots We are now in the middle of implementation of a solution in a big factory in Israel. That instead of instead of human beings moving heavy stuff from one point to the other point in the factory, robots are going to do it. And so the first one was cleaning, the second one is delivery. We are in the middle of implementation of a small delivery robot that will take blood tests from one side of laboratory to the other side of laboratory. We implemented a disinfection robot that based on a UV light in a big factory of a pharma factory. And the fourth one is the telepresence. Telepresence robots that help me being there without being there. Okay, so those are the four kinds of solutions that we provide right now.
And so if you're looking at the way that these are going to be implemented at scale, where are we today in terms of the life cycle of either the experimental phase, the phase where we're ready to grow and to have this be an integral part of our workforce? Where are we on this timeline, assuming that one day we will have robots surrounding us constantly?
Yes. So I think that we are only at the beginning, at the very beginning. But since as I said at the earlier, the technology is quite ready. We are going to face a boom, an explosion of cobots, and we see how many companies come one after the other. Some of the companies are coming from the application side, and some of the companies are coming from the robotics side. We are at the beginning of the cobot era, and we are going to see them all around us all the time and everywhere.
Fantastic. Now, to share with me maybe a little bit about the development process of a robot like this, from how you actually get the idea or the thesis as to how this robot is going to be integrated, all the way to actually running the tests and seeing how well it performs in a real world situation. So I'd love to hear just an end-to-end process of how building a robot like this, how does this take place?
Okay, so as I said, we don't build the robots. The robots are being built by the companies that we are working with, we come to, for instance, let's say a parking lot, a big parking lot that now is being cleaned by a person that rides a cleaning machine, normally at night, hard work. Nobody wants to work in those kind of works. So we come to this parking lot, we inspect it and we map it, and we bring the robot to the place. Actually, the mapping is being done by the robot itself while riding it manually, and it builds a map using a LiDAR element, using a laser beam that, And after mapping it, we sit with the owner of the parking lot, and we build with him the cleaning plan of this parking lot. It can be done, normally robots use 1 hour of charging for every 1 hour of working. So we get a machine that can work 12 hours a day, 365 days a year, doing this cleaning mission. So this is for cleaning. If we go to this laboratory that I spoke about, again, the mapping is being done always with the robot, with the LiDAR, and then we sit with the people that run this laboratory, and we build the plan how it will go from one point to the other point, and yeah.
So what it sounds is that there's an element of taking existing solutions, right? Taking the technology, understanding that it has, creating a general enough solution that will provide for a variety of use cases, and then through an intimate work with the organization, you're able to then actually make the fine tuning for how this cobot or robot is going to integrate within the current chain of procedures for the exact situation, right? And how much do they vary? How different do these organizations work in terms of your having to fine tune the way that then the robot cooperates with them?
Since we are working in a lot of verticals, it is a lot. I mean, a hospital is working in one way, and a factory is working in a different way. So it is totally different. The amount of people that are working in a supermarket are not the amount of people that are working in a laboratory. We have in a big in supermarkets in Israel robots that clean the supermarkets, and if you try to activate or make the robot work in a Thursday afternoon, the robot will fail. It will not be able to accomplish the mission that it runs. Yeah.
Where is your passion and excitement for robotics coming from? Where you're choosing to spend your time, with these robots, and there's also the interesting question of building them and creating the actual robot versus the implementation in the actual field and the integration to humanity. What came into these decisions for you?
Actually, it all started at the beginning of the COVID eruption. It was February 2020, when we installed remote patient monitoring solution in hospitals in the country. And one of the department managers in one of the hospitals came to me and asked me, why do you install a fixed solution on a wall? Why can't you make something that I will be able to guide from outside the department or from home? And I said, okay, interesting. I want to investigate this. It was only the beginning of the technology being ready to do such missions. And we in 10 days we built a prototype of a moving cobotic moving remote patient monitoring solution. And once we discovered the technology, we couldn't stop working on it. And it was, we are quite an old company. Robotize is part of a company that exists since 1906. And we started to act like, a startup around the clock, bringing new technologies, understanding new technologies, and we don't stop, more and more solutions and more implementations.
Fantastic. And I think that the world that we're talking about here is, what I think that is so fascinating in our point in time is that we understand that we have the technology. We understand from perhaps an ethical and a moral perspective that it's with the Terminator fear that maybe some folks have from the previous generation, that's not what's holding true today, and the integration is going to take place. And now it's just a question of when and where, not an if. And so I'm really excited about companies like Robotize that come and actually go to perform these integrations and push them forward in humanity in general. And so, Amnon, thank you very, very much. This was really, really interesting. Best of luck with Robotize. Continue pushing robots and cobots into our workforce. And I think it's doing a great service to everybody. So thank you, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Michael. It was great being here.